Here it is, midnight on a work night, and I am about to work on a computer. This is a new-to-me machine. You're probably thinking, well, gee, you got plenty of Lenovo ThinkPads. What makes you need another one? Well, I gotta be honest with you, I was kind of intrigued, or I kind of wanted a newer machine than what my T540 is, and I've never really been too impressed with the later machines, the very minimal amount of time I've actually used them for anything. And I wanted one just so I can make my own judgments and test my judgment from the past to see if I'm right and that these things are giant lemons, or if maybe it's just because it's such a radically different design from previous ThinkPads that I immediately jumped straight to rejecting it. This is a Lenovo ThinkPad T540p. I forget exactly what the P stands for in Lenovo parlance, but I think that it means it's a little bit of a higher-end workstation machine than the regular T540, so it might be built a little bit differently than the regular T540. What I can tell you is that this is an eBay find. I saw it as a bid item, and nobody had bid on it, and there were about a little bit less than 24 hours left on the auction. So, just to be a smart pants, I left like a $10 or a $15 bid on it, expecting not to win, and I ended up winning. But I didn't win for $10, because on eBay, to win an auction, you just have to get the next highest increment. So, I won with the opening bid, which happened to be set at 1 cent. Which is kind of why I bid on it. So I won this thing for 1 cent because nobody else bid on it, and I don't really know why, because it's not like there's anything wrong with it. At least not obviously. It looks like it's in pretty decent condition. I mean, it's a little bent. You could kind of see that there, that it's a little warped, but that seems to be pretty typical of modern ThinkPads. I don't know what it is about these. They've never managed to get the quality control right. There's a headphone jack, which is a rare sight to see on a laptop these days. I don't know if it's a combination jack or not. I think it might be. I know it is on some of the later ones. I don't know if this is supposed to be an express card slot or not. I don't remember. Or something proprietary. There's an SD card reader there. It does have a USB 3.0 right there. This, I think, is a USB 2.0, but that also features charging when the system's turned off. There's VGA. There is a mini DisplayPort connection, I think is what that is. I don't think that's Thunderbolt. I think that's mini DisplayPort. There's the cooling vent. Part of the cooling vent, anyway. There's a blank for something, I don't know what. Other part of the cooling vent. Lenovo decided in their infinite wisdom they were going to change the power supply on these so it no longer uses the round barrel connector, it uses the square thing. I don't know if it's maybe slightly more robust or something, or they just wanted to make it proprietary. It's probably what it was. There's the battery. This is just a standard size battery. You could get extended runtime options, I'm pretty sure. These actually probably are covering up screws, thinking about it, because there's one on this side as well. There's Ethernet. Kensington lock is there. There's a USB 2.0, there's a USB 3.0, and this, I think, is another blank. You know, it looks like another blank. And there's your optical drive. I have no idea what that is because it doesn't even say on it what it is. So that's neat. Underneath here is the RAM. Departure from most ThinkPads of, at least modern anyway. There's only one memory module under here. The other one's underneath the keyboard, so that's a little irritating. I think the T430 is like that too, if I remember right. I know the T410 I've got's got them both under a door. So, don't really like that design that much. And, or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's for the wireless. I don't know. Because there's another thing here. This might be for the RAM. I'm actually curious. I'm going to go ahead and pull these doors off. We'll see what it shows up underneath. I am going to pull this out because I'm going to go ahead and change the drive over to an SSD anyway. Alright. This indeed is for the wireless. Also the battery, which is accessible. I like that very much, because on the other ThinkPads you have to take the keyboard out in order to get to that, and that's really annoying. This right here would be for added cellular connectivity, be it, I don't know if this is new enough for 4G LTE to be a thing, or if it would have still been 3G, or maybe also Intel's WiMAX. You could also use a WiMAX receiver on that. There's the hard drive right there. That looks like that's going to be a pain to get out of there. That's actually a 500 gigabyte hard drive. I don't know if it's original. I'll have to look when I pull it out. And there's the RAM. I believe that this comes equipped with a full 8 gigs. So that's pretty neat. It's got an i5 CPU. I think it's like a 4300 or something. Nothing particularly great, but certainly still better than my 3rd gen 3320. So we'll see what that actually happens to be. I'm going to go ahead and put these doors back on. We'll open the machine up and we'll take another look. I will also say this for it. At least it's got the rubberized coating still on the top. Some people really hate that, but I happen to like it. It makes it harder to drop the computer. But to me, honestly, the plastic is a lot flimsier on this more modern ThinkPad than it was on any previous model. And I still cannot get behind this keyboard. Again, it feels nicer than the standard chiclet keyboard of the time period, like the so-called MacBook Pro keyboard that everybody seems to think is so great. But compared to the other ThinkPad keyboards, the older ones, this just sucks. Like, it really sucks. And I know for the T430 at least, it is possible to install the old T420 keyboard if you make some slight modifications to it. But this is a completely different keyboard. And as you can see, the keys are arranged completely differently. Now, because this is a T540, you can also see that this has a number pad, so that's another difference. I don't think my T500 had a number pad, so kind of interesting to see a numpad on a 15-inch laptop. Usually you don't see that. You can see the sticker got kind of a little messed up, but that's okay. Funny, it's got a Windows 7 sticker here, but the license key on the bottom is Windows 10. And I was mildly surprised to learn that it was Windows 10 Home Edition. I thought I would have had Windows 10 Pro, but I guess whoever refurbished this, could have even been the eBay seller. Whoever refurbished it did not want to pay the money for a Windows 10 Pro license, so Windows 10 Home it is. And it's got this trackpad on it. I might make a video review of this. That's not what this is. But suffice it to say, that trackpad is probably one of the worst trackpads I've ever used in my entire life. And I've used some pretty bad trackpads. Like, I've got those 2 Acer netbooks down there. Those are pretty bad. I think this trackpad's worse. I don't know how it manages to be worse, but it is just so bad. Anyway, let's see if the battery's any good. I think it probably is. I don't know how to get into setup on this, so we're just going to let it boot into Windows. There's a key you're supposed to push. On the old systems, it was the ThinkVantage key, but this doesn't have a ThinkVantage key. So, anyway, that's starting up. I'd like to reload this so I can have my own setup on it with my own knowledge as far as what's running on it. 'Cause it does have programs. You can see somebody installed Chrome on it. Whatever. Again, it was probably the eBay seller. You know, they put useful programs on it after reloading it, which is pretty nice of them. I mean, I'm not gonna cast any aspersions on the eBay seller for doing a favor to the end user, but I just prefer, as a power user, I prefer to have my own install anyway. So I'm not putting it on my network, at least not yet. So we go to about, you can see here, Core i5 4300M, 2.6 GHz, 8 gigs of RAM, 64-bit operating system. And if we open this up, I actually wanted to look at the device manager, so I want to see what hard drive this actually is. Probably should actually go and install like Crystal Disk Info or something and genuinely check whether or not the drive is any good. Smart data wise, it's probably fine, because you can see how snappy this is actually moving, and this is on a mechanical hard drive with Windows 10, and it generally doesn't do that. But it's a Hitachi drive, HGST. Although being HGST, it might actually be a Western Digital drive in disguise, because HGST was a Western Digital venture for a little while, depending upon how new that drive is. Okay, decided to use this computer just to go ahead and download Windows 10, put it onto a USB stick, get it ready to go. And I gotta actually find the SSD because I don't know where it went. Moved everything around here. Alright, here it is. It's nothing great, but it is say to 6 gig compatible. It's a little Samsung, 240 gigabyte. Should be more than enough for this. I think I mentioned I'm tempted to set this up as a dual boot system at some point. I don't have a whole lot of experience setting up dual boot systems, because usually I just like to have it as either one or the other, but it might be a nice thing to experiment with, at least for a little while. I'm going to give this thing some serious credit. If I can find the mouse here. This battery is actually pretty good. It was giving me a time remaining before, but now it's not. So it's probably about to drop like a stone, but I've never plugged this thing in for the entire time that I've had it. And I've had this thing for at least a week and a half, if not 2 weeks now. So I am going to have to plug it in overnight, just because I don't think there's any way that this is going to finish in decent enough time, because I got to go to work tomorrow, and it's 1:30 already, even though this says 10:30. It's still in Pacific time. Here's the Lenovo power supply that it came with. I don't even think it's the same voltage as the older power supplies. Should have one sitting around here somewhere. Well, maybe it is the same, 20 volts. This one puts out 4.5 amps. Maybe it's just the amperage that's different. Excuse me, because it's a smaller power supply. I don't know. But the end is obviously different, so it's not going to work. You can't use the older ones with this, and you can't use the one for this with the older ones. Okay, I pulled the drive out. It is indeed just that one screw, and then this is the caddy. It's a bunch of plastic. Not very high quality. Here's the drive. It's not the original. You can tell because it's got the spare sticker on it. It's an HP drive. So, out with the old, in with the new. I'm going to throw this 240 gig SSD in there. And then we'll get to installing Windows. There it is, installed. I gotta say, it is pretty easy. I don't like how flimsy that caddy is, but I mean, it's an SSD. It's not like it's going anywhere. So, okay, plug in our USB. I'm kind of shocked at the lack of lights on the machine. It doesn't have anything to indicate whether it's charging or not. So let's see if it'll actually boot to the USB stick. Or if it'll just break, which I think is what it did. Okay, here we go. Just had to wait a little while. A crappy trackpad. It's not even working properly. Seriously, I think this takes the cake for the worst. Forgot about the trackpad. It takes the cake for the worst mouse I've ever used. Let's select I don't have a product key and see what it does. It's licensed for Windows 10 Home Edition, so that's what we'll give it. Thank you for choosing Microsoft. Yeah, what choice, right? I mean, I guess you could put Linux on it, but... And I might do that at some point. I may set this up as a dual boot system. So we'll let it do its thing here. As I mentioned previously in the video, I believe, I got this thing for exactly 1 cent. Nobody else bid on it. One of the reasons might have been this. What I'm about to show you. what exactly is wrong with the speakers, but there is a very obvious problem with the speakers. So I guess maybe I'll be buying new speakers for this. Either way, other than the stupid trackpad that I absolutely loathe because it does not work, I think we're good to go with this. It's pretty much set up. There's not much else I can really think to say about it. So, I think we're good to go with that. So, on that note, I'm going to close out the video. Thank you for watching, and if you have any comments, feel free to leave them down below.